Canadian wildfires are causing the worst air in the U.S. in cities like Chicago and Detroit. Drifting smoke from the ongoing wildfires across Canada is creating curtains of haze and raising air quality concerns throughout the Great Lakes region and in parts of the central and eastern United States. The Environmental Protection Agency's AirNow.gov site showed parts of Illinois, lower Michigan, and southern Wisconsin had the worst air quality in the U.S. on Tuesday afternoon, and Chicago, Detroit, and Milwaukee had air quality categorized as very unhealthy. In Minnesota, a record 23rd air quality alert was issued Tuesday through late Wednesday night across much of the state as smoky skies obscure the skylines of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Michigan's Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy issued an air quality alert for the entire state. Wisconsin's Department of Natural Resources also issued an air quality advisory for the state. In Chicago, officials urged young people, older adults, and residents with health issues to spend more time indoors. Just driving into the zoo. You could just see around the buildings, kind of just haze, said Shelley Winowski, who was visiting the Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago. Some daycare centers in the Chicago area have told parents that their children will remain indoors Tuesday due to the poor air quality, while one youth sports club says it adjusts its activities to add more time indoors. As these unsafe conditions continue, the city will continue to provide updates and take swift action to ensure that vulnerable individuals have the resources they need to protect themselves and their families, Mayor Brandon Johnson said in a release. In the Milwaukee area, Flight for Life Wisconsin was unable to respond to a motorcycle van crash because the Federal Aviation Administration requires 2 miles, 3.2 kilometers, visibility, and the visibility was reduced to 3/4 to 1.5 miles, 1.2 to 2.4 kilometers, because of the hazy skies, Executive Director Leif Erikson said. Fires in northern Quebec and low pressure over the eastern Great Lakes are sending smoke through northern Michigan and across southern Wisconsin and Chicago, said Brian Jackson, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service. Jackson added that a north wind would push the smoke further south, moving into Illinois, Indiana, and Kentucky later Tuesday and overnight. The Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Center reported Monday that 76,129 square kilometers, 29,393 square miles, of land including forests has burned across Canada since January 1st. That exceeds the previous record set in 1989 of 75,596 square kilometers, 29,187 square miles, according to the National Forestry Database. Nationally, there are currently 490 fires burning, with 255 of them considered to be out of control. Even recent rainfall in Quebec likely won't be enough to extinguish the wildfires ravaging the northern part of that province, but the wet weather could give firefighters a chance to get ahead of the flames, officials said Tuesday. Nearly a quarter of the fires burning in Canada are in Quebec. Environment Canada meteorologist Simon Legault said he expects rain to stop falling by Wednesday morning in the regions most affected by forest fires. Earlier this month, massive fires burning stretches of Canadian forests blanketed the northeastern United States and the Great Lakes region, turning the air yellowish-gray and prompting warnings for people to stay inside and keep windows closed. The small particles in wildfire smoke can irritate the eyes, nose, and throat, and can affect the heart and lungs, making it harder to breathe. Health officials say it's important to limit outdoor activities as much as possible to avoid breathing in these particles. Until the fires are out, there's a risk, Jackson said. If there's any north component to the wind, there's a chance it'll be smoky. In early June, U.S. President Joe Biden said in a statement that hundreds of American firefighters and support personnel have been in Canada since May and called attention to the fires as a reminder of the impacts of climate change. The warming planet will produce hotter and longer heat waves, making for bigger, smokier fires, according to Joel Thornton, professor and chair of the Department of Atmospheric Sciences at the University of Washington. Preeti Marwah, who was beginning a run along the city's lakefront, describes the haze in Chicago Tuesday as bad. Like, you can smell it bad, she said. I run 100 miles a week, so this is going to be dangerous today. You can feel it. Just even parking right there and coming out, I can feel it in my lungs. Smoke from the wildfires moved into Minnesota late Monday, and ground-level smoke is expected to linger across southern, east-central, and northeastern Minnesota. That includes the Twin Cities area, up to the northeast corner of the state and down to the southwest and southeast corners. The Minnesota Pollution Control Agency tweeted that Tuesday marked the 23rd air quality alert in Minnesota this year, breaking the previous record of 21 in 2021. Minnesota usually averages 2 or 3 alerts in a season. St. Paul recorded the worst air quality in the United States 2 weeks ago due to smoke from Canadian wildfires. As of midday Tuesday, the air quality was rated unhealthy across eastern Minnesota from the Canadian border to the Iowa border. The MPCA said a cold front will move across Minnesota on Wednesday, bringing cleaner air from the west across the region by early Thursday. But on Tuesday, the coming respite meant little to Dan Daly, a resident of St. Louis Park, Minnesota. "It's kind of miserable some days because you can't spend a lot of time outside," he said. Daly said he smelled and tasted smoke in the air when he left the house this morning. He saw a hazy sky and wondered if that will be the norm for future summers in the area. When the air quality makes it unhealthy to be outside, Daly struggles to do the things he enjoys like hiking, camping, and walking around town. He worries that people in other parts of the country who haven't experienced days of bad air quality will think it's not a big deal. "If they think the smoke's not that bad, they should come up here and see it for themselves," Daly said.